Well, welcome everyone. I'm so grateful that you have joined me today. I always like to kick off my shoes and do some grounding when I'm doing these. So I'm just grateful that you're here today and want to share with you this great modality to help clear out those things that are really bothering us, not only in our mind, but our body and our spirit, because any of those can impact us and really create a lot of angst in our life. And I just really have been called to do this every single month because I think that, I don't know about you, but the last 2 months of my life have been up and down. It's been a roller coaster. And so I think we all have kind of been through that. And we have different times in our life where we have months like that or years like that. And so it's important to take this technique and to be able to know how to use it so that we don't get overwhelmed in any one of those parts, our mind, our body, or spirit. So that's why I want to share it today. So let me kind of get started. Did you know that trauma puts our nervous system on high alert? And that when our nervous system is always on guard, so is our immune system. And it could be trauma from early childhood wires our nervous system to be on hyper vigilant, or it's unaddressed trauma leaves you chronically stressed and ready to fight, or flight and freeze, or and really just get us stuck. Your adrenal glands are constantly receiving the message to maintain a hypervigilant state. And that's a place that's really hard to just stay at constantly. So that creates chronic stress, and it leads to ongoing release of cortisol into our system. And as women know, we do not want to have cortisol because that's when our hips start behaving incorrectly and start gaining weight. So it's important to let go of that cortisol and not keep it going. This overall cortisol will eventually cause your gut wall to break down and leads to leaky gut. In addition, your hormones, like I talked about, become imbalanced and your immune system will turn on you also. But there's good news. Trauma, even from long ago, can be released. And when it is, you can also heal your immune system and and reverse your autoimmunity. So I've kind of each month kind of talked about a little bit how autoimmunity plays into it. Here's the immune system, also cortisol, your hormones. And so you can see that stress impacts and trauma impacts every single one of those areas. And I think it's interesting because a lot of times we don't realize it's impacting us. And, even me, I'm aware, but I was just aware. I went through something where I felt like I was getting tighter, and I was like, oh, I'm lifting weights. And so I could feel stronger. But then I realized when I got home and my husband was massaging me, he would touch me and it was like, I just hurt. And I do a lot of different modalities to stay healthy. And so one of the things I do is I get a chiropractor appointment and I get a massage every month. I wish I was every week, but every month. And it's almost like sometimes that trauma gets stuck in our body and we need to let it out. Sometimes we hold it in our spine because we're trying to, maintain structure in our lives. And that spine represents that structure. So a lot of times if you have lower back issues, it's because you don't feel supported. And so that's why you have lower back issues. And so it was interesting, I've done my best to do yoga, lift weights, that's the stuff that I need to do to stay balanced. But when my husband went to massage me, I was just like tight and hurt every time. And I was like, whoa, I'm really holding this in my tissue. So it's just being aware of how all that stress and that trauma impacts you. And it could be little stuff and it could be big stuff. And it could be, like we mentioned here, long childhood stuff that is stuck and creating angst in the body, but also long-term issues with autoimmunity and things like that. So I'm Jody Colgrove, and I do like to clear traumas so that you can get your health and happiness back. So I'm sure all of us has been dealing with trauma over the last couple of years. You know, it could be things from COVID or rioting, issues with the dealing with the shock pressure, dealing with the death of loved ones, politics. Like we have this baby formula thing that's going on. We have the school shootings, and it's just many, many more. And each of us have a different thing that triggers us. And a lot of times those are based on things that we dealt with in our childhood that resonate. And so some things will impact certain people and other people won't. The baby formula thing, it didn't really go deep, but I really felt for moms that needed to supplement with formula. My son didn't breastfeed very well, but I did my utmost best, and then started supplementing as he got older, up to age 1. But I remember times when like, I got to go find this certain kind that he's okay with that didn't have soy and dairy, and so it can be a little scary when you can't find things. So that kind of resonated with me, and so I think each one of those different, there's something over the last 2 years that may have kind of really pulled at your heartstrings and needed to deal with. So I wanted to read you something about stress, anxiety, and trauma. So stress, anxiety, and trauma create a physical and a non-physical response in the body. Trauma overwhelms the nervous system and its capacity to process that experience. So pieces of that experience are left unprocessed or frozen behind in our brain and in our body. So anytime the flow of energy goes through these areas, the person will experience the trauma symptoms again. So that's what I was talking about when they mentioned baby formula. I think about the times I had to find that are leftover places of that trauma in my body. When my husband went and massaged me, I could feel that trauma was kind of stuck in the tissue. A lot of times when I get a chiropractor appointment, he will work on a certain area, especially like for me right now for my lungs, and I will notice that I will weep and cry because I'm holding emotions in that area. And so I think it's really important for us to know how our body communicates with us, because it's telling us what we need to heal and what we need to work on. And so when we have an opportunity to listen and be okay with listening and walking through that, it helps. And I dealt with a program called Solutions many years ago, and it talked about how emotions are like a bell curve. So you'll have an emotion that comes up, and then it will start impacting and rising, and then it will get to the top, and then it will start decreasing and going down. Sometimes the problem is that we do not like that uncomfortable feeling and that emotion. And so we're scared as we're going up that it will never end. It will just keep going and going and going. And so we have to be okay with knowing that we have a base to stand on, and whether that's your spirituality and what you have been exposed to or believe in, whether it's just the divine, whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whatever that is to you, it's important to have that base, because I think that helps ground you, so that when you do go through the emotions, you have someone to connect with you and that divine divinity. And so you can ride that curve and knowing it's going to be okay. And that doesn't mean that you need to have, well, it's helpful to have that for sure, because there's sometimes a part of healing that we can't go farther. It's almost like there's a ceiling on it. So when you do have a divinity or something you believe in that's bigger than you, it's able to connect with that and help you heal deeper. So that's one thing. The other thing is that sometimes you can have that, and that still doesn't give you comfort when you're riding that wave. And so I think it's important to connect and be able to be okay with that. And I'm reading a great book right now of just daily devotionals that really talks about when you spend time connecting with the divine on the good days and the bad days, then it's easier to get through all the days. I think that's a really nice message and helps us to remember that. So, all right. So I want to start the modality today. And so I want each of you to think of a time that you have had or wanting to work on today. So, think a lot of times I give the example of saying, okay, so I'm sorry. I kind of went beyond my example that I did, so I'm okay with that. All right, so you want each of you to think about a situation that you want to deal with. So it could be a present day issue. It could be something that happened today. It can be something that's happened this last month or last year, last 2 years. And I want you to just kind of think about what the situation is. You don't have to go too deep into it, but just know what you're wanting to work on. It's always like a show of hand or in the chat to just say, got it. So I just want to make sure everybody has something that they want to work on. And I want you to also give it a number. So in other words, 1 is it doesn't give you much angst, and 10 is that it really bothers you and you've really been struggling with it. So I want you to give it a number. So if you could leave that in the chat, each of you, I would sure appreciate it. My doggy decided to splash me with water while I was getting ready for the call, and so my glasses are unclean. So all right. All right, so Mindy's got a 7. Boris has a 9 or 10. Neil's got an 8. Claire's a 6 or 7. And Paula, do you have 1, 2 that you've come part of? Okay. All right. Yes. Okay, so Paula's 10. Great. So I appreciate everyone kind of checking in on what they want to work on. And I want to get 1 too, because it always helps me to be able to know what I want to work on too. Okay, so mine is about a 6. Okay. All right. So let me. All right. So I want to share screen. And I pray this works. Oh, here we go. Of course, the screen I want to share isn't here. All righty. You think you're going to be able to do this, and then let's see if I can. Well, that was a good attempt, but no, here it is. Let's see if this will work. Okay. All right, can everybody see the trauma sequence? And I should make sure I can have the. I can't see your. Let's raise your hand if you can see the sequence. Okay, good. Thank you, Mimi. Or Mindy, sorry. Okay, so I can't see the chat. That's why. So thank you. Okay, so we've got the sequence on. So I wanted to go through that so you can see it. I had this last time, but I couldn't share that. Great. Okay, so you've got what you want to work on. So let's go ahead and walk through it. So you have the start of the eyebrow, and you just can touch these points as I go along. So eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under the eye, the middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside of eye, and armpit, and collarbone. Okay, run it through it again. Start of the eye, index finger, little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under the eye, the middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside of the eye, armpit, and collarbone. I'm going to do it one more time. Eyebrow, the index finger, the little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under eye, middle finger, side of the hand, index finger, outside of eye, armpit, and collarbone. All right. I just want you to check in. Let's see if I can stop sharing screen so that, there we go, so I can see your chat. Yeah. Stop sharing, there we go. All right, so now I just want you to check in and just kind of see, okay, with that memory, what you were wanting to work on, where are you with your numbers? So have they gone down or up? And so share your number with me. I'm going to check in with myself too. Okay, so I know where I'm at. So where are you guys at? Okay. Okay, so it's 6. So I'm just kind of checking the numbers here. Okay, so Cece, it doesn't look like you changed much. So that's clear. Okay. Okay, so Paula, you came down quite a bit, so that's great. Okay, and Neil, you did too. Let's see. So Paula, you did also. And, okay, and Mindy said you're about the same. Okay, a 7. Okay. Okay. All right. So I want to run through it again. Now, one thing that I was aware of is that I was thinking about what they call an aspect of the situation. So I was thinking about my mom took a tumble or a fall, and she really scraped her leg to the point where sometimes I watch doctor shows, but we fast forward it through, kind of like the gory parts. And this was intense enough that I had to actually see the wound. And, I do a lot of outside stuff, but I'm not really like, into seeing that. And so it was very hard. But it was interesting as I walked through that, I cleared that. But the next thing I went to was thinking about how that situation has led to us putting her in a place where she's a lot more safe and she can't fall on rocks and things like that in a care facility. And so that brings me some issue. But as I thought about it, as I tapped, I kept thinking about that. But what I want to explain to you is that I started out with the memory of this wound that I had to work on, but then it switched to the reason she got the wound. So that's what I call a different aspect of a trauma or a situation. So I hope that makes sense. But another example is like if you're in a car accident and you're going down the road and you kind of remember seeing the road and the car and that kind of thing. And so you're working on that, but then halfway through, you realize you're not seeing it, you're hearing it. And you're hearing the crunch and all the stuff that happens when you go through an accident. And that's a different, what they call aspect of the trauma. So I just want you to be aware that that may have happened to you as you're working on it. So again, let's kind of check in and we know your numbers. And so let's go ahead and work through those points again. I'm going to put back on what we're wanting to share. There we go. It'll start being an old habit this real soon. All right, so let's go ahead and touch those points. So we have the eyebrow, the index finger, the little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside of eye, armpit, and collarbone. Do that again. eyebrow, the index finger, little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. Okay, do one more time. Eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, not the itch, armpit, and collarbone. Okay, just take a deep breath. All right. There's a little bit of a yawn. When we yawn, that usually means that we're moving energy. And so therefore, it's actually a clearing that the body does. So a lot of times when I work with people, I'm yawning a lot because I'm helping your body clear, my clients that I work with. All right, so I want you to check in with yourself and kind of find out where you're at. Okay. All right, and let me know what, where you got number wise. Another yawn here. Okay, so we've got a 3. Okay, so Mindy went down. That's great. Okay. Neil went down. Okay. Paula went to a 1. Great. Okay. And then, okay, so even okay, so Cece went down a little. I'm sorry, Claire. You can come up as Cece. So so Claire, you went down a little bit, but not a lot. Okay. So a lot of people went down a lot on that. So again, just kind of being aware of how aspects and how they creep in. So as I did the second clearing, when I got like number 2, I realized I had an emotion of anger come up, and the fact that, well, I do this as a living, and I let the emotion get stuck inside my body, and I should know better. And so I actually came down with a cold after I visited and took care of my mom. And so there was a little bit of anger that came up with, well, my lungs, and I can't really take a really deep breath because my sinuses are a little bit congested. And so I'm kind of angry at myself. And so that emotion came up. So it kind of popped me up a little bit. And so just kind of being aware how your mind, as you do the tapping, kind of does this as it goes through the different aspects or the situation and how it's impacted the life around you. So I think that's a really good way to be aware of how aspects come up. I hope my illustration helps you because it's in real time. So because I'd like to see Claire being able to come down a little bit more, let's just kind of think about maybe one aspect that may be a little bit different that you haven't thought of or has come up. Maybe as I've talked, something has come up that you realize, oh yeah, that's a part of that, or there's an emotion that's come up. So just kind of be aware of what you are experiencing as I shared my story. And great. So Neil says it does help. Great. Sometimes it's a little hard to share some personal information, but I think it's important that people know we're all human and we all deal with stuff. And I think it's one of those things where I don't need to feel like I need to share my angst to help you, but sometimes there's illustrations that really helps. So, and we all are human and all go through stuff. So thank you, Neil. All right, so just want you to check in and see if there's an aspect that's come up that we can clear. And let's go through and do it one more time. So I'm going to share screen again. So we have that up so you can see it. All right, let's do one more time. And just be aware of kind of what number you are, as you start this. So I'm kind of at a 3 again. So it's an eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, the middle finger, the side of hand, the index finger outside of the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. The eyebrow, index finger, the little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside of eye, and collarbone. Sorry, I filled that up a little bit. Let's start again. So eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, start of the eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, armpit. Sorry, it's hard to kind of like work on your stuff and do this at the same time, but I want to be able to kind of give you kind of some, examples of how it kind of plays. All right. Okay. So Claire, we're just kind of wanting to see if that has kind of moved for you. A lot of people had come down. You may have kind of popped back up with the different aspects I talked about. So I'm kind of gone to a 2. And I think for me, it's just been, I'm surprised that a situation that is over here and how much it impacts everything around. And so there's kind of like this frustration a little bit of how trauma happens over here and then it ripples effect throughout different aspects of your life. And so it's just kind of interesting to see how that kind of impacts. So it's just kind of feeling the weight of that. So that's keeping me a little bit higher. So, okay, so the aspects made you go up to a 7. And the second aspect showed 2. Okay, anxiety came up and brought me up to a 7. Okay, all right. So it was a 7 for both of you guys, for Boris and for Mindy. So when we did that last tapping, did that help bring that down on both of those? Okay, so Claire says it it's stuff is moving, but it's still a 5 or 6. Okay. But I'm just curious on both Boris and Mindy whether you started the last tapping at a 7 or did you end at a 7, so you're a 7 now. Okay, so Mindy's saying that it brought it down to a 3, and this last one was back up to a 7. So, okay, so yeah, so it feels like it's moving layers. Interesting that I kind of feel like I'm kind of doing the different layer thing, and that really hasn't come up in a different treatment before. So I think that's what's neat is that I'm going through a situation that has many layers to it. And you guys are here and you also have multiple layers to that. So it's neat that this is all kind of working out the same. So great. Okay, so Boris says it's also the same. So what I would like to do is I'd like to take you through a next level that I like to walk through when something like this is kind of undulating like that, or there's a deeper issue. So sorry, seeing where I am on my notes here. So we've talked about how this is an example of how negative energy is stuck in our body, and you can feel that. So I want everybody to kind of check in to see if there's any kind of body sensations that you have. Okay, so for me, I talked about how I kind of felt several emotions, but I also feel kind of just a tightness, not being able to kind of take a nice deep breath. Now, being aware that lung is a grief field. Okay. Okay, and so right now I am going through a lot of grief in my life, in different aspects, different things that have gone not so great, and so there's a lot of overwhelm and a lot of grief with that. So I'm feeling that in my chest, and it showed up, interestingly enough, in my spinal cord, because your spine, each one of your segments is related to a different organ. And so when I had a hard time breathing, sure enough, it was T3 and T that deals with lungs that showed up. It was it just hurt. And so I got a chiropractor appointment yesterday, and everything just kind of relaxed. So it was nice. But so now I'm kind of dealing with not getting a good like diaphragm breath. And so almost like I'm holding it in. So just being aware how your body holds this and how we need to move that. So just being aware of where you're kind of holding that in your body. Okay. Okay, so Claire says like a massive weight on arms and chest. Okay. All right, so we're just kind of being aware of where we're tapping in, where we're feeling that in our body. Okay, so we have something that we do that's kind of like almost like another layer of a QT release. It's another way of clearing traumas or clearing stuck emotions, clearing stuck body sensations that really help. Okay, so just tap into where that is in your body. And then I'm just going to clear it for each one of you. Okay, so I'm just doing side of hand, under nose, and side of hand. So that clears the body. Then I'm putting it back in parasympathetic recovery. So you can either be in fight or flight. So that's parasympathetic recovery is keeping you neutral, back in calmness. Okay, and then we have certain brain engines that kind of help the whole body function well. And so I'm just kind of putting those points back on the body, reconnecting those. And then I want to clear, however that is connected, lock and key with all non-physically attached fields and release. And then just like our trauma code, what I do is, okay, we tap through the points, but now you've tapped the points, you can actually write them on a piece of paper and you can just run your finger over those treatment points. Now, I have done this a billion times, and so that's why sometimes it's hard to slow down into the point. So I just think about running my finger over that trauma code. Okay, and so I'm just thinking about clearing that. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. Just thinking about Claire and how that's weights on her chest. So we're just going to clear that. Side of nose, side of hand, under the nose, side of hand. Back to parasympathetic recovery. Back on all the brain. I'm doing very fast now. Clear, lock and key with all non-physically attached fields. Already my chest and diaphragm is able to breathe a lot better. So Mindy is saying there's dizziness and heaviness in the solar plexus. Lovely that you brought that up, Mindy. It was so interesting when I finally got home after being marooned in a city on Saturday. Literally couldn't leave because the flights were all closed. So anxious to get home because I did, had a cold and didn't feel well. And so I didn't feel bad. I just was stuffy. I got in the tub, laid down, and I just say, okay, now I'm free to release all this. And I could not get a breath. And sure enough, it was that diaphragm, solar plexus. And I don't usually do too much with the chakras, but I found that that was completely locked up. And I had to do many of what I'm doing with you today to clear that. And so just going to work on, Claire's got a chest, you've got the solar plexus. And so I think there are those times where we do hold that chakra in that, Paul is talking about the neck. That's the neck chakra. And I have read a book that I thought was very hopeful that talked about what we do hold in our chakras. This obviously is thinking, but our throat is speaking our truth. Heart is, whether, we have a heart connection with people. I think solar plexus, and this is kind of unique, I think, but I went to equine therapy And equine therapy, they said you can't just, that's horses, you can't just take a horse's leash and say, okay, come. They don't do that. They don't want to come with you. And so in order to be able to move a horse, you have to push them with your body. So you actually come at them and move them. And so that's where the solar plexus is. That's your ability to move forward in life, to direct your own direction. And so I wanted to bring that up because I think that's really helpful to know why that may impact you. And that's kind of why it was impacting me. I just felt like I couldn't kind of control my situation. I was overwhelmed. So we have tight neck. Paula says on the left side of the body. Okay, so pulling that in. Okay. Just want to kind of be aware of what I'm clearing. Arms, chest. Right, so let's clear again. Side of hand, under nose, side of hand. Back to parasympathetic recovery. Back on all braided regions. Very lock and key with all non-physically attachment. And so I do this for some reason. A lot of times I'm doing something with this hand, and so I just sometimes do this. I do, wherever I find, sometimes my legs. I'm just clearing that trauma. I want to check in with each one of you just in my mind as I'm clearing that trauma. So we're just clearing Claire and where she's feeling it. Another yawn, so that's usually an indication that Claire, we're moving that energy through you. Do we have any borrowing benefits as people as I'm working through? We're thinking about the heaviness, the soul. Or says he's feeling better. Used to be fear and panic running through the body, and now it's settled. I was talking about the left side. Working on Paul specifically on that area there. What a great feeling. Okay, so Neil Gunn said he's felt a shift too. Mine was in the heart and the throat area. Okay. So Paul says the neck is excellent. The left side is not clear. Not not just when moving. Neck back. So thinking about where that is, where you're experiencing that. Let's go ahead and clear that palm. Are there big yawns coming up? We talked about left and right side of the body. Just to let you know, the left side of the body is receiving from others, and the right side of the body is giving. And so a lot of times you'll have an arm that hurts because of that. You'll have a breast that hurts because of that. A leg moving forward or wanting to kick someone out. So each side of that body, be aware of. There's also, front and back. See if I can remember. I think the left side is men and the right side is money in the back. And so sometimes if you have a back angst, left side is men and right side is money. I could be reversed on that, but I think I remember that. Okay. That's a big yawn for somebody. So moving that through. So let me know kind of if there's some place that still is a little bit tight that we need to clear. Anybody that's or for you, let me know if there's some other place I need to clear. Yes, the left side is receiving from others. The spine is achy on Boris, so let's go and thinking about that spine. The yards coming up. So right? So Paula talks about so needing to accept. Not necessarily. In other words, it could, you have to think about your own situation, but let's say that you're receiving so much that it hurts. It could also be that you're blocking or you're spending so much time blocking them that it hurts. So it could be that it's in regards to setting boundaries. In other words, do you have a good boundary of receiving just enough to nourish you, but you're not giving away too much? Okay. So does that kind of make sense? Okay. So Boris saying there's slow internet. Sorry to have. Oh, no problem. Okay. Okay, so Mindy's still dizzy and lots of fatigue, avoidance pattern. Okay, all right. Uh, okay, so if the left side is hurting, does it need boundaries? Okay, got it. Okay, so if we were just to say, okay, so for I'm going to go back to you, Mindy, just a second. But the left side. Yeah, so it's boundary issues. So you need to decide if you're being too strong or if you're being too weak. Okay. Okay, so going back to Mindy's, I want to clear that brain lymphatic system on you. Okay. Also, vagus nerve a lot of times deals with dizziness. I want to clear that as a curtain. Okay. There's a brain. Like I said, I yawn when I'm clearing it. So there's a brain in. It's not a brain inch. It's a cortical contact. Okay, so limbic, frontal, prefrontal. So I'm just clearing all the brain engines for you on that. So let me know, Mindy, if that dizziness has kind of helped. What I'm trying to do is get you to think, like I said, it's an avoidance issue. So I'm clearing that so that doesn't happen. And Claire, I'm just kind of almost helping you connect kind of your solar plexus, who you are, your heart, and your mind, reflecting all that. I just feel like you need me to kind of break in here and help. Okay. All right, so then I want to go to, let's see, so Neil wrote, so it says, so Neil's asking, when you clear for one, does it clear the group? I felt shifts that I didn't expect. Yes, in other words, there is what we call a borrowing benefits. And so I'm clearing kind of for everybody, but I'm kind of checking in to see if there's one that needs more of the other. But yeah, that's the borrowing benefits kind of model for that. But it's other yawn. Like, for example, I don't necessarily know who that yawn is for, but somebody is clearing. So. All right. So does anybody have still something that they're wanting to kind of work on that is still causing them some angst? That could be anything. So just let me know how all of you guys are. And I'm just kind of also checking you too. Boris, I'm feeling that there's something here. So I'm going to check you. It's right here. Okay. I just want to clear that. There we go. Checking again for Boris. Okay, that's better. Okay, so Boris is feeling peaceful when it comes to this issue I was focusing on. Great. And sometimes what I'll do is this kind of from a different modality of Lifeline, but just kind of sending infinite love and gratitude. And this is the infinite love and gratitude symbol. And so I always place it over kind of my heart, my solar plexus, and giving that out to the world. It's just another little modality sometimes that I do to kind of send blessings. It's kind of tied a little bit into that Ho'oponopono prayer. You know, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. Sometimes I do this and that. I just find it's all that way of being able to connect you to the world and to others and feel that connection. There's definitely feeling enlightenment, enlightened and movement. Still there, but long-standing issue. And just want to make sure that Paula, you're feeling well also, and Mindy. Okay, Mindy said yes. This is also okay. So Mindy says it also feels. Sorry, feels like this is also feeling of having your work on it. So I will sit with that here. So Paul, I just want to make sure you're doing that then. So, okay, good. Thanks, Paula. All right. So sometimes I just want you to be aware, sometimes if you aren't in tune with where you're at, and a lot of times this happens, especially with a headache. Sometimes I'll go, okay, I have a headache, and I will literally just kind of touch where the pain is. You could do that on the heart, anywhere, and you just kind of touch. And sometimes you'll be aware that an emotion will come up, and that's the emotion that needs to be cleared. So you can just be aware when you do feel that, then you can do the same QT release to release that. I'm sorry, the trauma sequence to release that. So I just want you to aware that that's another tool that you can use. So I've given you several different techniques. The one is the first one is a simple one, but because we're doing a group call and we're doing a trauma release, I wanted to kind of give you some real deeper release today, because I appreciate you kind of showing up and wanting to clear you and work on yourself. So I've worked on a little deeper than a lot of times the QT treatment, or just sorry, deeper than the QT trauma release will do. So I went and did a deeper one. Sorry, I'm using a lot of different languages. Don't need to. Take another drink. Okay. So when you have something that comes up, you can see how we do the QT trauma release to help clear that layer and help you kind of think better. But sometimes when we have deeper issues, it's sometimes nice to go even deeper with some of these different modalities to get to the real root cause of it. Okay. So we use a lot of these same techniques to be able to clear things that are going on in the body. Those can be things like pathogens, whether viruses, bacteria, mold that's impacting our body or in our body for some reason. We can also clear toxins, like different foods that we may have eaten that's bothered our hormonal system. Mold, like I talked about, maybe that's what's impacting the lungs. Different inhalants, I had to fly on a plane. So a lot of times the jet fuel can really impact the sinuses and bother me. In fact, today, I'm a little more congested today because the jet fuel was bothering me on the trip. And then I had to pay all the visas today. And so all those receipts had a smell to them, and it was really bothering that area. And so it just, sometimes those chemicals, because you're kind of down a little bit, they will show up and impact you a little bit more than typical. But all of those get stuck in our body or in our energy field, and a lot of times we need to clear them. And so we use the same kind of techniques or the pressure points to clear that and get those out of the bodies. And then what we do is we reconnect the body to the divine intelligence so it can heal. We believe that what God created the bodies to sorry. We believe that God created the bodies to heal themselves. And a lot of times there's a lot of toxins that we come in contact with, whether it's receipts, heavy metals, jet fuel, smells. One of the things that sometimes gets me is when they tar a parking lot, and so that real acidy smell. Those are just toxins that sometimes can overwhelm the body. Cigarette smoke is another one for me personally. But we all have something that kind of triggers me. My son was saying, "Hey, can I get some cologne?" I said, "Please don't." I don't need any of that. But those different toxins and smells can get in the body and then impact us. And so we can use these same pressure points or points that we just worked on to clear those out of the body. And that way, when we clear those toxins in our lives and from ourselves, we have a hard, when they're stuck in there, they have a hard time being in a healthy state. And so that's why it's important to get them out of the body so the body can heal itself. So I wanted to open it up for questions, and I know we went a bit long today, but I wanted to work on, people just really seem to have some issues we want to work on, and I appreciate that. And that's why we're here and why I want to do this. So if you have questions, you're welcome to go off mute and ask me questions you've got today. I'm gonna blow my nose. Yes, Paula, you have a question?
I missed the part that you said, did you say to do the trauma code if you have mold and other allergies, or I missed what you said there?
Sure. So in other words, I have given you a QT trauma example of how we can clear traumas using the acupressure points on the body. We can use those same acupressure points on our body to clear things like toxins, pathogens. So those are virus, bacteria, mold, eating something you've eaten, ingestants, inhalants, contactants, injectants. And so we can clear those out of the body by using those acupressure points. So it's the same kind of technology. It's just taken the focus off of trauma and put it onto more of a health focus. But a lot of times any health issue usually has a strong physical component and then also an emotional component. And so we heal both at the same time. Does that make more sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Great. I'm sorry I didn't explain that very well. All right. Any other questions today? Yeah.
I was just going to ask, are you going to do a course or a workshop so we can go into it a bit deeper, like the other points and the other things you do, so we can learn that as well?
Yeah, I have been collecting people's names that wanted to do that. And so, yeah, I just need to set that up. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah, so I can add your name to the list, and I'm not sure when I could do that. July is kind of tough because I'm in Arizona, and sometimes August is a little bit tough because it's the start of the school year. So I'm thinking probably September.
Yeah, cool, brilliant. As long as I'm on your list, then that's great.
Okay, great. And if what would be helpful in the chat, if you can say it's mastermind, or actually I would say just trauma, just write trauma and then give me your email address, because then I can add it to the list for wanting to do more. And anybody that's interested in that. Yeah. So any other questions tonight? Great. Okay.
Jody,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I am struggling with complex PTSD that started when I was a kid, and I'm 50. And QT can assist with a series of traumas.
Okay. So Boris, hold your question. Claire, could you go off on mute so I can hear Boris's question a little bit better? because he was broken up a little bit. There you go. Okay, so Boris, could you repeat your question?
I have a complex PTSD that started when I was a kid. And I was wondering how QT can work with that when it's accumulation of a lot of stressors over a long period of time.
Got it. So a lot of times what I love about QT is that we don't have to relive the story in order to heal it. So we have a technique that's kind of like the almost like the third step down, if you want to think about that, where we say, okay, what was, we say, okay, I'll explain it. We say, okay, where does the body want to work today? Okay, and so we say, okay, where is the start of, let's say, this trauma in childhood? So we say, okay, is it between 0 to 10, 10 to 20? And so we may say, okay, well, it's age 12. And so, okay, so at age 12, what was the issues that were going on? So we identify what's the belief, what's the emotion, what's the intention that got, created or is stuck there. And so we just almost like find out almost like the strings that are making it continue to be attached, and we start cutting them. And so once we've identified them, we're then do the same treatment to let them go. Now, what we do find is, okay, let's say that 12 is where the body wanted to start today, but let's say it actually has another repeating back at 5. And so sometimes we can do that in the same session when I work with clients, or it can be done on the supplicant session. And so it's just kind of how much the body wants to heal at a time. And so a lot of times we heal, I tell people it's like an onion, it's what the body can handle and release. Because a lot of times, not only is it those emotions, but it's organs that are holding it. And so we need that organ to repair. So if you're really holding that in the lungs, we need the lungs to repair themselves before they, get hurt. So, they're not overwhelmed by what it's been holding for so many years. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's and so that's one of the deeper things that I do when I'm working with clients, is to go and find out exactly what it is. And sometimes there's several what we call linchpins that created that fracture of where we're at. And so we go back and clear those. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I remember when I first started on this journey of self-healing, and the people I worked with, their catch line is, it's all fixable. And I think that's something that's really always resonated with me. And we just have to be willing to walk through it and be willing to learn from it, but realizing that it is fixable, and that there is healing out there. And I'm always amazed at sometimes how the body holds the information, but how it is willing to let it go. All right. Okay. Excuse me. So I got another email I just want to write down here. And it helps to write these down and stuff. Okay. So great. So yeah, so the things that I wanted to gift you with today, now that we've kind of gone through this, is like we just talked about. I am going to be teaching a mastermind on some of the deeper levels of clearing the traumas, like the one I just went through, answering Boris's question. So if you're interested in wanting to take that mastermind, you can write down trauma, and then also write in your email address. And that's really important. I had one person that said, yeah, I want to go. And then I didn't get their email. So All right. The second thing is that, we went through the trauma sequence, and so I can send you that trauma code so that you have a copy of that. So I can send that to you. So if that's something you would like, you can let me know that. All right. So Mindy says she has to get the kids to bed. So thank you for attending, Mindy. Okay, so if you would like those QT codes, I can send you, like I said, the trauma code, and I can send you we have some standard codes that we do for virus, bacteria, ingestants, inhalants, contactants, and injectants. So I can send you those. So it uses the same points and a little bit more. But what's nice is if you, let's say you eat something, you're like, I don't think that was very good for me, and I'm starting to get an upset stomach. You can read that code, and it's like the same thing we just did, but it helps clear the stomach. Or whatever, you're feeling, like, gas or something like that in the intestines. Okay, so Paula sent me an email. So if you do want to email me, just so you have that, it's jody@quantumtechniques.com. And I can send you, like I said, the QT codes for that. We also have something that I have found to be helpful when dealing with all this stress. Like I said, Saturday I was stuck in the airport and couldn't get out. And that is the LifeWave patches that I've come in contact with since last August. So it's almost been a year now. And I've dealt with these patches before since 2009, but they expanded their line of what they offer. And so they have a Nirvana patch. And so the patch helps just calm the whole body. So if you're having to deal with a stressful situation, you can wear these patches and help. So a lot of times, let's say Nirvana I wear every day because I think it kind of keeps you balanced. But there's other patches that help with stress, like Eon, which helps with the inflammation and also stress. And so I wear those on Mondays because sometimes Mondays can be a little rocky. Just lots to get done and take care of, and I don't ever get my to-do list done that I want to. And so the patches do help. And so they're just, they have sticky on one side, and there's different acupressure points that we found to wear those to be helpful. And last night I got really stuffy because of those receipts. And so I actually went to bed and I put 2 of them like right here. And within 5 minutes of putting them on, my sinuses cleared up. So sometimes they even amaze me of how much they do work in different ways. So that's been really a neat way to be able to do what I do with the acupressure points, but have it consistent over time. So it almost takes the treatments that I do and make them last longer throughout the day whenever you encounter a toxic. So I find those to be very helpful. So if you want some more information on the LifeWave patches, I can certainly send that to you also. So let me know about LifeWave. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been great to work with you guys today. I've not have a lot of information, but I hope I've kind of explained what I do. But my goal is to help you get your health and happiness back, because there's something about being in balance and being able to handle everyday life that is just so helpful. And I know it's been profound in my own life. And when we're able to be in balance ourselves, then we're able to connect with others and to be able to send them love. And that connection is just so important. So I really appreciate that. So that's kind of my goal. That's what I do with my healing work, both emotional and physical. So I'd love to connect with you. We have lots of ways. I have a YouTube channel. I do these Zooms once a month. I was doing it on many different topics, but I've kind of felt led over the last couple of months to do trauma. And so I will kind of continue to do that, especially, through the fall until I feel like that's kind of moved on. But that's what I'm doing each month. So you're welcome to invite more people to join us. I do have a Facebook group that I would love to connect with you on. And so like I said, we have a website you can check out, which is quantumtechniques.com. We have a YouTube channel, which is Jody Colgrove. And my Facebook is just Jody King Colgrove. And then you can also do Health Puzzle Academy. So that's where I list a lot of the masterminds that I do. and also, give health information there also. And if you're wanting to work with me on one-on-one for new time clients, we have a 1-hour session where we're working for 60 minutes to help kind of find out what your health issue is, what the emotional component is, and to give you a specific code for you to help with that issue. And so we find out what foods may be impacting you and adding to the issue, and also clear out any toxins that are impacting you, not allowing it to heal. So sometimes you can tap forever and doing EFT and things like that. But if you have a toxin you're taking into your body every day, it's not working long term. So we find out what that is, clear it out of the body, so the body can now like download and do everything, all the work that you've been trying to do. It's been blocked by some toxin, and then it will start working. We offer that as a special for new time clients for $300 for an hour. So if that's something you'd love to work with, I would love to work with you to help you get your health and happiness back. So I appreciate you staying a little bit longer today, and I hope that you have just a wonderful rest of the day and got some healing, and you feel much more balanced. So I'm so grateful to work with you, Claire, again, and Boris, thank you, and Neil, and other people were able. So blessings, infinite love and gratitude. All right, blessings, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you, Jody.
All right, blessings. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Blessings.
Bye.
Thank you.